In this video, follow along as we fully reassemble and then install this bobbin winder for our early model Singer 99. Let's get started. So let's go over the parts that you need. We will need the belt guard, the screw that holds the belt guard on. This is the bracket. There's a screw for the bracket. We need the bobbin winding arm itself. Don't forget you have a rubber tire for that. It also has a spring with this long tail and a hinge screw. Then we have the thread guide or cam follower. It has another hinge screw or shoulder screw and spring. Then we have the cam gear itself, and I disassembled mine a little bit further than you probably had to. So I have the gear, the cam, that's held on with a little screw. There's a little spring washer, a hinge screw, and a nut. And finally, the stop latch, which also has a spring and a screw. So we'll start with the belt guard and this bracket. And the bracket goes onto the belt guard like this. Do you see how it comes and bumps out and away? The screw that's adjustable up here in the top, let's just start that. Don't put it in all the way, but just get it started. So see, it's not tightened down, it's just kind of started. Now we're going to take the bobbin winding arm. And there is a spring that goes in the arm. You see this hole right here? You see this tail? And then we have the long arm. Let's make it so the tail, the short one that's poking down, goes down into that hole. Now watch this, I want you to see. Once you have the spring in, and you know that the little tail's in this hole, hold down the spring if you can, and click it in front of this cutout. Try to get it to stay. Take your long hinge screw, slide it through the arm, and then we're going to put the arm onto this hole in the bracket with the spring tail sticking in front of this part. Get everything lined up and tighten down the screw. So do you see? Here's my spring. Don't worry about tightening this down. If you want to just kind of make it so it doesn't flop, that's fine. But look, this is springy now. That's what we want. So we can move on to the next step. Now we want to reinstall the cam gear. First, I need to put the cam back on. If you didn't take yours off, then you do not need to do that, but I do. Now I'm going to tighten this down further, but after I get everything lined up this way. So the cam goes back onto the body of the arm, and the way that it does is that we take this cup washer first, and if I have it on my finger like this, it kind of looks like a contact lens. It's kind of cupped up like a contact lens. The cupped side goes down like that into the arm. We have our long hinge screw, and this is an eccentric screw, so this is another adjustment point on our bobbin winder. It's how we're going to control the mesh of the gears between the worm gear and the cam gear. But we want to slide our eccentric screw in and then in through the hole on the bobbin winding arm. All together like that. Now the nut goes on the back. And just get it finger tight. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down now that everything's in place. Very good. Now before we tighten that nut down, we really want to check out the mesh of these gears. So by turning the bobbin winder, it's not going to happen very fast because I can't turn it very fast by hand. First, I just want to make sure that this gear is moving when I turn the bobbin winder. And it is. But I don't know if you can hear this. Listen. There's like a scraping noise. I think maybe my teeth are just a little bit too close together. So what I want to do is turn this screw, the nut, I'm going to make sure it's loose, and I'm going to turn the screw and watch how those teeth mesh. I don't want them really tight. I just want them to touch enough that the gears spin together. So I think it's about right there. I'm going to take my finger so I can hold that in place. And now I'm going to tighten down this nut. Get my screwdriver in there so I'm sure it's not moving. Now let's check and see if I think I meshed them too tight. Oh yeah, I can barely turn it. So I need to back them off still. Loosen the nut. Think about right there. Let's see if I can hold everything in place and tighten that nut back down. Now let me check. I've got a nice mesh. The cam gear is turning. I'm happy with that for now. If I feel like I need to adjust it again, I'll do it when it's on the machine. That's easier than trying to hold it. But the whole point of that eccentric screw and this nut is to control how close or far apart these teeth mesh together. And that's where you would do it. So we can go on to the next step. Now we're going to take the cam follower thread guide. This part follows the cam. This part guides the thread onto the bobbin. And the first step is we have a spring that we need to put inside. Now, there are two holes. I like to try the hole that's closest to this cutout here by dropping the spring in, getting it in that hole. It is a little bit fidgety, but you can get it in there. If it doesn't feel like it's going right, flip it over and try it the other way. That went in so much better. Now, we're going to have to get the other tail in this hole on the cam follower. Keep the cam follower lined up against the cam, not over it, and get our eccentric screw in. If you can try putting the spring in the hole first and then pushing down to slide the arm into the cutout that's sticking up, and then quickly and carefully get your screw started. Oh, I felt it grab. It's a little bit tricky because it wants to pop out of place. We have that spring kind of working against us. So I'll tighten it down and then let me check and make sure I got everything right. Well, I can see the tail of my spring here. My cam is going around the cam, and I can see the tail of the spring on this side. So everything stayed in place. And look, see, this is how it's going to move the thread back and forth on the bobbin. That was tricky. So now we should be able to see a little bit more movement when we're spinning our bobbin winder. This is good to go. I think these teeth are still a little too closely meshed, so we'll check that final adjustment. Now we can put on the stop latch. So imagine this little finger on your stop latch is what rests against the bobbin, and as it fills, it's going to pop away and stop the bobbin from winding. The way that it goes on, first we take the spring. The tails on this spring are directly across from each other. It doesn't matter which way the spring goes in. I'm just going to start with the middle hole, and then I'm going to put my stop latch so that the hole in the stop latch goes on the other tail that's still sticking up. Now comes the fun part. When both springs are in the appropriate holes, you want to push down the bobbin winding arm like this, so that this portion of the stop latch, let me see if I can point this out. This portion of the stop latch is actually hooked over onto this little cutout part of the bobbin winder. It will help to kind of push everything together and find a way to hold it all in position. I had to grab it kind of funny. Go ahead and get that screw started. You cannot put this piece on if you do not push the arm down. You need that arm down. Just gonna snug this up right now. Now to check my work, do you see this part right here is hooked over this part? And if I hold my belt guard and I pull up on this part of the stop latch, it releases. If I push it down, it locks into place. Release. Let's get this back on the machine and make our final adjustments. Now, before you put it on the machine, pop that rubber tire on. Just do that now. It's easier to do it now. Now we can put it on. My screw that holds my belt guard on. Get it ready. I'm going to just set the belt guard with the bobbin winder and everything. There, that'll be easier. Set the belt guard on and screw it down. And it's okay to tighten this one all the way down. Very good. Now let's check this out. So right now, I do not have it engaged. If I want to press it down, I can't even engage it. So the screw up here at the top on the bracket, we're going to make an adjustment right here first. First, I'm going to try loosening it, and I'm going to push this up. Then I'm going to tighten it back down. Now I can engage the bobbin winder. I can spin the hand wheel. When I disengage the bobbin winder, I can spin the hand wheel and this doesn't turn. Now I wanted to check the mesh of these teeth. And now that I have it on, I'm just raising this up so I can spin the hand wheel. I like the mesh of the teeth. The bobbin winder is working. The gears are meshing. I don't think that they're too tight. And release. So there you go. That's how we do it. Oil these points up, though. I will tell you, that's going to make a difference. Get a little oil worked in there. Definitely. Very nice. So, bobbin winder on. In the next video, we will be adding the motor and the foot control and everything back onto this machine. So I hope you have everything ready for the next step. If you have questions with this bobbin winder, let me know. There's really just two adjustments: the mesh of these gears and then the bracket that controls how far the bobbin winder raises and lowers when it's engaged or disengaged. And they're not hard to make. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys again really soon. Bye.